All right, McKinnon Jurors, we're back with something brand new. First time in Vincerix history. It's not just you and I sitting here talking shop. We've got a third man on the show. It's David Gies, caddy for Bud Cauley, who's having a generational start to the season. Tied for fourth at the Players' Championship. I believe sixth last week at the Valspar. Over $1 million the last couple of weeks. The camps.
Big deal.
The Bud Cauley camp is flying high. So great chance for to kick off a new show, talking to caddies. Kind of just cover how David got into caddying, how he got on Bud's bag, and how the season's been going. Try to talk some shop about strategy and things like that. But first of all, super excited to have you, David, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys having me too. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's just dive right in. A little background. I know you, we were doing some research. Matt was getting me up to speed on your background as well. I know you played some junior golf, top level junior golf. So played some college golf at North Alabama. Give us a little background on kind of before you got into caddy, back into your playing days. What kind of player were you, and what kind of led you from being a top player to ending up in the caddy ranks?
Yeah, I played a lot of junior golf growing up. I wasn't a world beater by any means. I kind of peaked a little later than some. Ended up at North Alabama playing. I was recruited by some bigger schools, but I wanted to go somewhere I could play right away. And North Alabama was a good D2 school at the time and very competitive in the national championship. So I wanted to go at least compete. I didn't want to go watch people travel and me sit at home. So played 2.5 years there. I wasn't the best student in the world. Went back home, kind of played some amateur golf, worked at Quail Hollow Club for 10 years, and I went to Latin Q school a couple times. I came close, but didn't really pursue it any further after COVID hit. And then Johnson Wagner asked me to caddy for him during the COVID year, and that's kind of how I got back into the caddying.
Yeah, I mean, you say you weren't that great, but I mean, I seen you stripe out there a little bit. We got together. I met David in Phoenix in Scottsdale or somewhere in that area at the, what is it called? Grass clippings at the par 3 course. Played with Willie. You guys almost won that event. I actually forget who won it. You could tell me if it was. He was a good player, but I forget who won. You guys nearly won that little caddy contest.
We lost to Michael Cromie, who caddies for Chris Kirk, and Brian Hughes, who caddies for Ben Coles. Both really good players.
One of them is they're really good, right?
Brian Hughes played on Latin Tour for a bit, and Cromie, really good player. I don't know what his highest status he ever got, but he's always been a really good player. Played at Georgia.
Yeah, that was some truthfully high level golf out there. I was following you guys like all night, and even some other guys. I was like, damn, these guys all stripers. So that was fun. I want to talk a little bit about Bud, like how you met Bud. Were you guys close years past before you guys got together, or how did that pairing come together?
No, actually, so I grew up. I played against Bud a few times. He was obviously at a higher level than I am, but we played some of the same events. He's been a world beater since he was a kid. And I guess he turned pro after his third year at Alabama, but previously I'd never met him. In the middle of the summer last year, I had a buddy reach out, ask if I was interested in working for him. And at the time, the kid I was caddying for, Harrison Endicott, was playing decently well, and I just kind of blew it off a little bit. And then another friend of mine is Zach Blair and his caddy Nick. They share the same agent, Bud and Zach. So I had reached out to Zach to see if it was still available, and he got me in touch with Bud's agent. And the first time I met him, he actually flew me down to meet him, play some golf, and kind of went from there.
What was the first event you were on the bag for?
RBC Canadian Open.
Okay, last summer.
So didn't make the cut there. I think we actually missed the first 2 cuts we played, but ended up. You could tell I was unsure on how healthy he was, but I knew how much of a stud he was, and it was kind of an opportunity I couldn't say no to.
How did the Endicott situation start? Because me and Adam are both familiar with his game. He's Australian, I believe, right? And how did you guys meet up?
So his agent, I'm really close with. I played a lot of mid-am golf with and amateur golf with, and after Johnson somewhat retired, I reached out to him to see if he had anybody looking, and I think I worked the last 6 events on Korn Ferry for him, and then he got his PGA Tour card, and we went almost 2 years together.
Nice. Were you on his bag at Dice Valley?
Yes,
when he
Q School.
when you guys won?
Did you bet on him that week, Jers?
I had him 125 to 1.
There you go.
Let's go. Let's go. That's hilarious.
We're
That's
talking about.
hilarious.
That tournament was fun. It was never close. I mean, he played as good as I've seen him play, and I mean, he wasn't. He's the type of player. If he feels like he's the best player in the field, he shows up as the best player in the field.
That's hilarious. I remember being in Nashville for my sister's 21st birthday, and I'm like, I cannot go to the bar right now. I need to watch Q School. Like, I sweat this final round out. So that was just a core memory that I had. That's hilarious that you were on his bag.
Yeah, yeah.
What's interesting, so I didn't realize, there was somewhat recently that you got on Bud's bag, last summer. Obviously played fine last year, but not obviously at the level that he's been playing over the last few weeks and kind of over the whole course of the season. I think he's 5th this year, strokes gained total on the entire tour, which is obviously amazing. What have you seen since maybe last summer when you first got into the bag to where he is now that's been kind of that driver for what's elevated his game?
I mean, he's such a hard worker on and off the golf course, so it was going to come eventually. The guy's too talented. I mean, like I said, he's been a world beater his whole career and just got set back by a unfortunate circumstance. But I mean, you kind of saw it in the fall last year. He finished 5th at Sanderson Farms, and I tell people all the time, he had Napa week. He was bogey free through 54 holes. Struggled on Sunday, but still had a decent finish. The following tournament, he was bogey free through 54 holes again at Sanderson. Had a chance coming down the stretch to win. I think we ended up losing maybe by 2. But that's hard to do. He had 6 out of 7 rounds that he went bogey free. I'd love to know the record on that, but you got to be pretty damn good at golf to do that.
Yeah, so those were the signs that this year was going to probably kick off, and then it's been pretty steady play, it seems like, since the beginning of the year.
Well, even like the end of the season at RSM, he played really, really good, and he actually putted well too, but nothing fell, and I think he finished maybe 25th or so. But I mean, he's been hitting it good, and the crazy thing too, like Phoenix, he finished I think 21st, and I think you can ask him, and he would say he didn't play very well that week and just managed pretty well.
We've had a running
joke. He's got a really good rate. What you said?
I was going to say that was the first time I think we started talking about Bud on the pod. First of all, because you met David down there in Scottsdale, but then that's when we realized, and we said the thing about their players, he's beaten Scotty Scheffler every time they've teed it up in the same event so far this year.
Except, what about Bay Hill though? Oh, Bud wasn't in Bay Hill.
No,
I think he's
Oh yeah, so he hasn't lost to Scotty yet, I believe. So that is a good rate going on. Because I mean, last year, how many guys lost to Scotty every single week? There was like 3 guys who didn't lose Scotty. So Bud's beating Scotty every single time. Keep that barometer up. You guys will do really well. So let's touch on the players a little bit. Obviously, I mean, you've caddied in contention before with Endicott, but this is a different level. What was that like on Sunday? When did it start to feel real? When was it like, all right, it's go time? Because you guys knew you were playing good golf. It's a golf course that he's familiar with, strokes gained Florida. But what was that like being in the mix at TPC Sawgrass with the world watching?
Man, it was cool. I like to tell people I've always been the type of guy that my demeanor doesn't really change whether we're in contention or not. I think I'm pretty low key, chill. I don't necessarily get nervous. Even when I played, I didn't really get nervous.
It's a good skill to have.
I just never put myself in position enough to. But when I did put myself in position, I like to think I'm pretty clutch. But I hope that resonates with him a little bit. Where, hey, you got me by my side. I'm gonna be cool, and I hope you know that you can lean on me and not feel like I'm nervous. But it was pretty cool being in that last group. But it was a little different too because you had Rory in the group in front of us, so we had way lighter crowds than Rory had up until, and it would have been, I guess, big on the final stretch, but we had the rain delay, and I was impressed with how many people showed back up after the rain delay, but still not what it could have been.
What was the rain delay like from your perspective? I know we've saw lots of interviews with what the players were doing during the rain delay. How'd you handle that? What were you thinking? Were you planning ahead? Like what kind of went into that?
For me, I had to get out of. I mean, I was already wearing too many clothes, so I went and changed a bit, hung out in the caddy dining, would walk back up to the locker room every once in a while just to make sure he wasn't up there needing something. But I mean, it really is just sitting on your phone, doing nothing, watching the time go by. Yeah, it's just they're pretty brutal, especially ones that are long.
Did you notice a change in Bud's demeanor during that over the weekend when he realized that he's actually in contention? This is the biggest spot of his life potentially in terms of winning a golf tournament. Or was it just like you just just business casual?
Sunday, I would say typically he's not the biggest talker on the golf course. He's very businesslike and very focused as well. And you could tell he had a little bit of nervous energy at the start of Sunday's round because he would talk a little bit more than normal. But overall, his demeanor, and I texted him after last week at Valspar that I was very impressed with his demeanor getting in the mix because he hadn't been there. And I mean, he was kind of there at Sanderson, but he hasn't been there in 3, 4, 5 years.
Talking about the like low key demeanor and you keeping a low key demeanor as well. I think I was watching last week when Bud chipped in on 16. Was that 16 when he hit it out of the bunker? Came up a little bit short in the rough, and then he chipped in for par. I think it was at Valspar, and like your guys' reaction was so low key, kind of the fist pump. Like there we go. But I even noticed that because obviously I've been watching you guys a little more closely now than Matt's befriended you, and I was like, yeah, that was low key. That was calm. So
it was kind of funny there. So he hits it in the bunker, plugs, and then he hits a pretty good shot out of it. It almost looks like it's going to get close, but it gets caught up in the rough. Well, the other caddy in the group, it's kind of etiquette. If your guy misses the green, he'll go rake the bunker. Well, we were playing with JT Poston, and Fleener's like, I got the bunker. Bud chips in, so typically I would just turn around and go get it myself anyway. So he chips in. We're kind of the little low-key fist bump. Well, I forget to grab the flag, and Fleener's in the bunker raking it, and he's like, Geese. And then JT grabs the flag. I'm like, oh shit, I'm sorry, JT. He's like, oh, you're good.
Is the player handling the flag like the worst nightmare as a caddy? If you look over and like any players having to do anything to take the flag out?
A little bit. It's not too bad, but if you quickly get in there.
What was I going to ask? This is what I was going to ask. I've always wondered. So like you guys were in the same group with JJ, right? In the final round there at Players.
Yep, we were.
What's that like when, Bud's he's right there still going for a top finish, but he's not necessarily, down the stretch going to win the tournament. JJ's, fighting for his biggest win of his career. As somebody who's, right there next to him, are you kind of like watching a little more closely, rooting him on? Kind of like, what's that like being in the final group with somebody who is going for the win when your player's like falling back? Or are you just so focused on getting Bud the best finish that he possibly can?
You're still focused on getting the best finish you can, but in that scenario, like I'm really good friends with JJ's caddy, and I mean, obviously you want to pull for your friends. And so that last putt, I think I can't answer for Bud, but I'm sitting there kind of hoping it goes in. So, or not kind of, but really hoping it goes in because like I told him, I would love to be drinking some beers on the back of that green if that would have gone in. If it's not me, at least it's him.
Yeah, that was a crazy finish. I want to transition a little bit to something that Adam and I are very familiar with and something that that we do. Pre-tournament, stroke gain prep, what does your routine look like? Are you checking yardages? Are you checking wins for the week? Just walk me through a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of a tournament week, whether it's a big event or a small event. How does that change as the week goes?
I've gotten a little bit more into charting greens than I used to. And the funny thing is, Bud doesn't ask me to read a whole lot of putts, but for me, I want to be prepared if he does, at least have some time. So I'm not just trusting my eyes. At least I know from at least walking around and seeing stuff that, I can go off memory as well. But other than that, I've always said my biggest thing is trying to find short side misses on every hole location. Like if we can be a little more aggressive to a pin and, being short-sighted is not the end of the world, whereas there's some places where if you're short-sighted, you're not making par. So that's kind of my biggest strategy.
Actually. That's really unique. I think that's a good strategy because on the PGA Tour, you have to be aggressive to beat these guys. There's no world where playing it so safe. Yeah, you can make some cuts, but if you want to, and Bud's good enough to win, so finding those potential good areas to miss short side, I've never really heard that as a strategy going into the week, but I think that's a good idea.
How much do you, dive in on Bud's stats, for example? We have a stat site. We spend all our time crunching the numbers on all these different guys. How much time do you spend looking there? Or do you is it more field based and kind of like what you said, charting the courses and you don't really need to know the stats?
I look at it a ton, not necessarily for prep, but for kind of after the tournament on what we need to work on. I mean, we've got a stats guy too, so he leads on that a lot. But I mean, after Valspar, he struggled putting the first 3 days, and I said something about it. And he's like, "Well, no shit." But yeah, I mean, it's good to look at it, especially for a recap. Like,
One
And
thing,
I know y'all do it too with charting for who you're picking, and obviously I think I saw this week strokes gain around the greens is huge. Is that right?
yeah, in Houston, it's kind of a bomber and then short game type of course. Just nuke it from the tee, and then if you can scramble and putt pretty well, then things are going to go nicely for you. One thing I was looking when I was kind of looking at Bud's stats today, a couple of interesting things. The first one that jumped out was he's third this year in bounce back percentage, so making birdies after bogeys. Is that something like you think he comes from a great mental game? Is that just kind of random and he's been playing great this year, so he just tends to bounce back more, or what's going on there?
Ever since I've worked for him, I've noticed that he's not one. You don't see him make too many consecutive bogeys. Like he forgets about it real quick. I know he can get pissed off, which everybody can, but he doesn't let it affect the next hole. And I think that's probably why he's up there in that stat.
Yeah.
But I mean, well, also at players too. I feel like we went bogey birdie, at least on Thursday or Friday. One of the days we went bogey birdie, par, eagle. It was just all over the place.
And then the other thing I saw that was interesting was that, like, I was looking at his off the tee kind of distance and accuracy numbers, on the season. And most weeks, I would say he's, at average or maybe just below the field average in distance for the week, except on a variety of positional courses, places like TPC, Sawgrass, YLI, RSM. Are you guys actively more aggressive off the tee on those shorter courses, and that's where that's shown up, hitting driver more often, or is that just kind of a random statistical trade, you think?
He's not afraid to change up his equipment. So depending on the course, like players, we put in a mini driver that week because it was a huge tool. The 3-wood wasn't quite enough to get it down on certain holes, but driver, you can't quite turn over enough. So the mini driver was perfect where you could hit these tight draws and get it further down. Like 10, he played aggressive every day. We got it.
I was going to bring up that
10 left bunker.
That's one of our favorite holes on tour. Yeah,
a lot of guys.
That's one of our favorite holes till every single year. It's one of the hardest holes visually. Like, you guys are on that tee, you have such a small landing area, and you can get boned either way. So you think that if you didn't have that mini driver, there would, I don't know, what would you do? Probably rip a driver, or how would that strategy change if you didn't have that club?
He would probably hit 3-wood, which would have left us a little further in, but also 3-wood turns over a little bit more, so maybe the left bunker's more in play. But I mean, he hits those clubs so good too. But it was such a weapon. Like, it was great on 6 with the tree overhang, and he could just flight it underneath. And he hit it a ton. We probably hit it 4 or 5 times around.
We obviously, as fans of the game and watchers, we always love as much carnage as possible. And when we were at players in the practice rounds, we want the tee on 10 moved back to the putting green. That putting green that's like behind 10 tee, move it back even further. Let's up the challenge there. The mini driver would still probably work well in that situation.
Yeah, but force guys to hit driver, that fairway would be real tight if you move that tee back.
Yeah, we spent a lot of our time.
What was your reaction when you saw? What was your reaction when you saw hole 6 for the first time, like this year? Because I know some guys are like, "What the hell is this?"
Well, somebody posted a picture. A friend of mine posted a picture maybe 6 months ago, and I guess they had just added it. And I was like, "There's no way that's real. That's got to be photoshopped." He said, "No, I just played it. It's real." And we get up there, and it's like, damn, it's just. I think it's more visually than anything. Like, I doubt anybody hit it the entire week.
Think so. We were hopeful, but it didn't happen.
The biggest thing though, and Robert McIntyre pointed out, it's like you hit it and then you don't see the ball for a while because the tree is perfectly in place for just to block the ball flight.
Did you play with Bob Mack that week in first 2 rounds?
On Saturday.
Ooh, we have Bob Mack.
Should we
talk to him?
Yeah, we're big Bob Mack fans. We've been betting Bob a lot this year, and just obviously when we bet a guy, we're then tracking him in the app, following really closely how he plays golf. We've crowned him the king of par. Like, he just plays the most steady par golf that's ever existed. Like, when you were out there on Saturdays, do you get that sense that he's very much just keeping the ball in front of him,
middle of the greens?
Like, it just seems
you're spot on. I mean, even Bud made the comment, like, it doesn't look like he's doing anything, and then you look at his score, you're like, oh, I guess he is even 1 under, whatever he is. And then on Sunday, I think
all pars.
He played well on Sunday. I think he shot like 4 or 5 under on Sunday.
Yeah, he made like a crazy slider down the slope on 17 from like the front of the green, and then he got within, I think he got to like -9 or -10 or something. But yeah, we've crowned him the king of par, and we think that's why he plays so good in national opens. Just the mindset of par. works well in National Open. So that's our Bob Mack take.
Yeah, and he's from Scotland, so he's going to play well in the weather too.
Yep.
For sure.
One thing, I got a question, Jer's kind of one that you had written up ahead of time. So when we're trying to figure out who to bet, we're looking for guys who are going to spike, and we call a spike like you gain 4 strokes on approach or 4 strokes putting. Kind of getting 4 strokes in any of the strokes gained areas, what we consider a spike week. When you, like Bud, for example, gained, I think, like 8 strokes on approach or something at Valspar, obviously a big spike week, or there's weeks, where he might gain 4 strokes putting or something like that. Do you ever sense that it's going to be a week like that? Or you show up on Thursday and all of a sudden he's just like striping? Or do you kind of have a sense sometimes when a big week in a certain statistical area might be coming?
With him, especially recently, it was a matter of time before approach was up there, because he's hit his irons well since Cognizant. I know he didn't have the best Sunday. I think we shot a couple over, but he's been hitting his irons coming out in the windows he wants to see, and hit it really, really good. Even Puerto Rico, I know you don't really have strokes gained stats there, but for him, I expect it every week with approach, because he flushes it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he does. He's been playing such great golf. What do you think his best skill set is? He is pretty equal across the board in terms of strokes gained. He's a very balanced golfer, which will play anywhere. But if he has one skill set, would you think it is his irons that's his best?
Yeah, as far as physically, probably irons, yeah. But then I think he's mentally tough as anybody out there as well.
Yeah, we talk about stuff like that. Strokes gained dog. You have to have it. You have to have it to win. And if you're telling us that he's got that as one of his biggest skill sets, we'll definitely add him to the dog. Yeah.
Think about it. I'm down to get Bud into the dog rank.
But Bud hasn't mixed outside of the players in years, and he hung tight the entire time. So I think I don't know who's 50th in the dog rankings right now. Is it who's 50? You know who 50 is off the top of your head, Adam?
No, I don't, because it's been moving around. We had David Ford, the amateur, in there as the lone amateur in the dog rankings, but
he stays there now because he won. I think he won this Valspar Collegiate, so he's got to maybe bump up.
Right,
I think so.
Speaking of the great finishes and mixing the last 2 weeks, David, we have to say I was there when Matt handed you a T-shirt on Wednesday in the practice rounds of Vincerix T-shirt. T4, T6 since then. Is there any sense that the Vincerix T-shirt has been a good luck charm for these finishes?
It probably is. I almost wore it today in honor of y'all, but I did not, because I'm partial to the hoodie. But I did wear it. You gave it to me at Players. I wore it to the gym every day that I went that week. And I've been wearing it quite a bit. It fits perfectly. They run a little small, but yeah, it fits good. I can't dry it though.
Yeah, people are saying
shrink too much for me.
People are saying that the shirt has led people to success. We gave Ben on one, and then he was like the 54-hole leader almost at the Valspar. So
49-hole leader at the Valspar.
49-hole leader at the. So people are saying the Vincerix shirt is the key to success on the PGA Tour this year. So I have to get a few.
Maybe the shirt just doesn't. Maybe the shirt just doesn't have dog in it, and that's why it's just not
that'd
finishing.
Be bad. Yeah, we'll see.
By the way, I was checking while you guys were talking. The current 50th in the dog rankings is Joe Highsmith. I don't think we can take him out after the win at Cog. So that's the challenge, David. For the rest of the year, we need Bud to pick up a victory so we can get him into the dog rankings. And on that front, what are courses? Like we've said, he's such a steady player. There's every course he should be able to show and play pretty well. Are there courses you're excited about the rest of the season that we should keep our eyes out for, Bud?
Next week for sure. I mean, it's a golf course where you got to keep it in play, and it really rewards good iron play too.
For sure.
At Valero. So I'll make y'all a deal that Augusta, if we make it to Augusta, you wear the suit, and you always basically just wear a t-shirt and boxers underneath. But I'll wear the Vincerix shirt underneath the bib if
unbutton it a little bit.
If we can, exactly. If we can pull out the victory next week.
I don't think I'll ever rooted harder. I think it's a win. Like I'll never have rooted harder for any golfer. Yeah, it's got to be a win, right?
Yeah, it has to be a win.
And I bet Akshay last year, and he won to get in. So there's good vibes about Valero with the Vincerix family writ large. So I'm excited about that for sure. And then speaking of a course that's coming up pretty soon, I know you texted Matt that only Rory McIlroy knows more about Quail Hollow, and maybe he doesn't than you do. Well, give us the Quail Hollow background, and then like how you're thinking about the PGA Championship. I don't know if Bud's in yet, but obviously if he could get in, that'd be a massive advantage for you guys.
I will say I definitely know Quail Hollow better than Rory. he performs pretty damn well on it. It fits
A little
him,
bit better than you.
if there's ever a golf course built for Rory, it's that one. I mean, it is built for a guy that hits it 300 in the air. I mean, it's a big property. But I'm not going to say we're in, but we are very close to getting in, based on past status. I would say we are in, but I'm not going to lock that in. I don't want to jinx it. But
Okay,
you want like a preview of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Just like from a man who knows it well. Maybe, and obviously, I feel like everybody knows it's a place you can bomb it and all that stuff. What's maybe something that people wouldn't think of that somebody who knows it as well as you do does?
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory with it. Like you just said, it's a bomber's course, but there's so many holes there. There's 4 or 5 where, let's say I fly at 280, you fly at 310. You have a 30-yard advantage in the air, but you also get another 20 because you're landing on the flat. So like the third hole is a perfect, or actually the first hole is a good example. You can take it over the corner. Rory's going to have flip wedge. We're probably going to hit 8 and 9 irons in. But these guys that hit it 20, 30 yards further are flying it on the flat, and it's chasing out another 20 extra yards, where the guy that hits it shorter sitting the upslope, and it's just kind of plugging. And that's why you see the long hitters win so often there. But
yeah, that makes sense.
We're going to have, I already talked to you. We're going to have you on for a few minutes, PGA Championship week. And hopefully you're there, because I want to see how those thoughts compare to how it is in major condition. Because obviously we've seen Quail Hollow a ton. We know how that course is, but there's always a little bit of changes for major week. So I want to keep those thoughts in the back of our mind for when we get to that tournament, because definitely you're going to want your input when we get there for sure.
I'll be interested to see what the difference is, because it's only a 2-week difference from when the Wells Fargo was typically played, so it's going to be similar conditions. I think the rough will probably be a little longer.
Yeah, I feel like it has to be.
At least last year for Wells Fargo, the greens are brand new, so they're firm. So I don't think there'll be any difference there. They just added a new tee on the 9th hole. It was 495 before, now it's like 535, which will make a huge difference.
It just, you can cross off so many guys heading into that week because they just don't have it. They don't have the distance. They don't have the carry numbers. It's just a grind. It's going to be a grind.
Yeah, for sure.
How's the walk? Because we always like to mentally prepare ourselves for, we do the boots on the ground when we're walking the courses. Obviously, Sawgrass is easy, but there's some courses that are terribly tough walk. What are we in for?
Top 3, maybe top 5 toughest walk on tour.
Okay.
Ooh, give us some other courses in that are top 3, like off the top of your head.
Augusta's number 1. It's as hilly as it can be. I mean, yeah. Fortunately, I haven't been there in a couple years. Bermuda is really hard walk.
Wow. Have you done Kapalua?
I've not. I hear that's number 1.
Number 1 for me, for sure. That was a joke. So
Cabo's up there too.
I hope you're there. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cabo's it's a big walk up and down hills all the time.
Who changing topics, and we'll let you run here. Obviously, appreciate you hopping on so late. I've been out in San Francisco on the West Coast. It's been throwing off our podcasting times. But like, who maybe is a guy or two player that you've either seen out there this year, you've played with, maybe a little under the radar, who you think might have bright things ahead that our listeners should be on the lookout for?
Man, I'd have to think about that one. Oh man. It's tough because Bobby Mack. There you go. That's perfect.
18 parts.
It's tough because his category, we don't really play with rookies very often unless it's on the weekend. So it's tough to pick those guys. I don't know any of their games.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I really don't know.
I have a question based off of that topic. Is there, in your caddying career, who is a guy that walking on the range, practice round, that like you didn't really know too well, or even a guy that you know tremendously, like hitting a golf shot, you're like, wow, this guy's different, or they just shocked you based on what you saw, or even Bud, like a shot that you see him hit, like, yeah, this guy's a pro. Like, I know I don't have this, but any example of that?
Actually, a couple of years ago, when I was caddying for Harrison, we got paired with Ludwig when he was still an amateur. And at the end of the first round, me and Harrison were both like, this kid's fucking good. I mean, and he plays fast too, which is my favorite thing about him. Because you just don't see guys play as quick as he does. Like, the ball's barely stopped moving and he's hitting. No, nobody can play too fast. And that comes from me. I'm the fastest golfer of the.
My take we call him Lud, but obviously generational player. I think in the final round, and this would be great to hear from you, David, and how you having seen guys play in final rounds and the energy, like, should he slow down ever so slightly in the final round? Is there a way that you could rush decisions under pressure or play a little too fast under the gun, or is it best to just keep doing what you do 99%?
I would say just keep doing what you're doing, but there is potential. Like, I play really fast as well, but there's times where the group would get put on the clock when I played, and I would speed up for no reason, knowing that I would never get penalized. So maybe there's a situation where he speeds up slightly and he just doesn't know it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Potential.
What's been on this great run of form so far this year from Bud? What's his best shot so far this year? What's the one that stands out to you as like the best shot so far this year?
Oh, man. Any shot on 17 at Sawgrass is pretty good.
How nerve-wracking is it?
It's going to be so nerve-wracking,
trying to get the number.
Honestly, the most nerve-wracking one was probably on Sunday because we watched JJ hit 52. Sorry, Lucas hit 52 degree, hit it, spun it back. JJ hits 52 degree, spins it back. We had just watched Smalley hit it over when we were walking up 16. We knew if we hit 52, it was going to spin. But clubbing it for a wedge, you're like, I know if he hits it, if he flushes it and hits it a little harder than he wants to, it's going in the water long, and he hits this beautiful sawed-off 48-degree wedge that hits perfectly, makes birdie. He birdied 3 out of the 4 days. He birdied 17.
Maybe we wrap it up with this question, because David, when we were doing a little research, I saw that you are a big fan of golf course architecture, of things like that. What is a course either you haven't played or haven't caddied yet that's like top of your list, or maybe what's on the bucket list of courses you haven't got to yet?
My number one, I'll go tie one. I want to play Chicago Golf Club up in obviously Chicago, and then a Hoopie Match Club in Georgia. Those are my
I've heard great things about that spot. Yeah, I'll wrap it up with one more question. If you were a professional caddy, a PGA Tour course, or even like a worldwide course that they've played on before, you could loot for one guy for one round in a final round at this venue. Who is it and why? Historically, but you can't say Tiger Woods.
Well, that ruins it.
No, all right. Then who's your favorite golfer outside of him in that situation? Like tied on the back nine, who do you want to be on the bag, and where?
Man, I'm gonna go Bud Cauley Sunday at Augusta. But other than that, I'm gonna go David Duvall was my favorite player growing up. I think any major you pick it'd be cool to caddy for him.
Caddying for him at the Open when he's got the shades on, I think would have been that would have been
yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolute perfect.
Well, David, we really appreciate you coming on, kicking off. We haven't figured out a name of what we're going to call our caddy interview series, but you will always be the first person who is on it. We'll always really appreciate that, and we will be rooting harder. Anyone listening to this, please root as hard as you can for Bud at Valero, so that we can get David in the Vincerix shirt at Augusta, and he can caddy for Bud going down the stretch. We'll be rooting for you all year. Awesome start to the year. Really impressive stuff, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing kind of the report from Valero, see if we fit into the in the mold.
Well, we'll get
it over to you for sure.
We'll be overriding the model to have Bud number one next
Perfect.
Valero. So yeah, it'll look good. We need all the confidence we can possibly get going into next week. All right, David. Thank you.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, thank y'all. Good talking to you.